Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Battles of the American Civil War, coming back at you with your host Bang and Dang, and the big one, what they say, the big one, the game. If it was college football, we call this the battle.
The King of Kings.
So far of the Civil War, definitely the Battle of 1862, which is the one and only second.
So
battle.
far, this 1862.
Oh no, there's no bigger battle than Bull Run in 1862. Second Battle of Bull Run we're referring to, or Second Battle of Manassas, August 28th through the 30th, 1862, in that familiar place of Prince William County, Virginia. Same, how crazy is that? Same exact battlefield as the first one.
Well, it wouldn't be called the Second Battle of Bull Run if it wasn't.
Yeah, but it could be Bull Run in a different area of Bull Run, but it's literally the same exact battlefield. That's crazy. Same exact houses nearby that they were using in the first one and all that shit, dude. It's fucking weird.
Right.
It's culmination of the Northern Virginia campaign waged by Confederate General Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia against newcomer who's leading the army for the first time, Major General John Pope's Army of Virginia, taking over for McClellan. Because McClellan's be shit.
Yes.
And John Pope's not going to fare much better.
No.
This is a battle of much larger scale and numbers than the first one, which was fought last year on July 21st on the same exact ground.
Well, to be fair.
Right. To be fair.
The war was like
Obviously,
still wearing
infancy.
Still wearing diapers at this point. And I think the first Battle of Bull Run, everybody was like, "Oh, wait a minute here, boys.
What do you mean?
We got some stuff."
The way these guys have been going all throughout 1862, it's still wearing diapers.
Right. So just learning to walk.
Right. After the collapse of Major General George B. McClellan's Peninsula Campaign in the 7 Days battles, which, if you were here around for that, terrible.
Yeah, that was bad.
Abraham Lincoln was like, John Pope, you're going to command my newly formed Army of Virginia. Pope had achieved some success in the Western Theater, but got his ass kicked by Stonewall Jackson in the Shenandoah Valley.
Did.
But Lincoln wanted more aggressive acting general than McClellan, because as we know and been proven, McClellan tended to second guess a lot and be afraid to even do anything. He's like, instead of fighting, we will retreat.
Right. And then when we have to fight while we're on a retreat and we kick their asses, we continue to retreat. No, you moron. Stand your ground, clown.
They call me the retreater.
Wow. Well, the newly appointed general, Pope's mission was to fulfill two basic objectives. Number one, protect Washington and the Shenandoah Valley. Well, that's two. And then number two, draw Confederate forces away from McClellan by moving in that direction.
Well, don't worry. McClellan's got that covered, because he's going to go away from him anyway.
Right. Based on his experience fighting McClellan in the 7 days, Robert E. Lee perceived that McClellan was no further a threat to him on the Virginia Peninsula.
Yeah.
He's like, that dude ain't nothing. So he felt no compulsion to keep all of his forces in direct defense of Richmond. Oh, damn. That's bold. This allowed him to relocate Jackson to Gordonsville to block Pope and protect Virginia's Central Railroad. I guess that you need to protect that railroad. You guys already lost the Mississippi River.
Mm-hmm.
You lost the New Orleans port. Pretty sure they lost in Florida, didn't they? One of those in there in Florida? Was there a battle over there?
They shelled the city like 3 times and then left, remember?
Oh, yeah.
That's about it.
Right.
I think they had, did they have Jacksonville or something so far?
Maybe
something like that.
Yeah, Jacksonville. This allowed him to to Jackson to Gordonsville and to block Pope. Railroad. Lee had larger plans in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Since the Union Army was split between McClellan and Pope, and they were widely separated, Lee saw an opportunity to destroy Pope before returning his attention back to McClellan. He's like, McClellan ain't going to do shit right now. He's on the hot seat from
Pope's got a little fire lit under him right now, so he got to take care of him first, I suppose.
He committed Major General A.P. Hill to join Jackson with 12,000 men. You know what? That's a good choice there because A.P. Hill, he's a damn good general.
Well,
and Jackson needed a guy like that on his side.
You sure you're not referring to D.H. Hill?
No, A.P. Hill. There's the other one, too.
Yeah, A.P. Hill's been with Jackson throughout this whole thing.
Right.
August 3rd, General-in-Chief Henry Halleck directed McClellan to his final withdrawal from the peninsula and to return Northern Virginia to support Hope. McClellan protested. He did not want to begin his redeployment until August 14th, though.
Oh, really? Oh, come on. You can't protest.
Well, he clearly did.
Man,
August 9th, Nathaniel Banks' Corps attacked Jackson at Cedar Mountain, which we just covered, gaining an early advantage, but a Confederate counterattack led by A.P. Hill drove Banks back across the bank of Cedar Creek. Jackson's advance was stopped, however, by the Union Division Brigadier General James B. Ricketts.
Oh,
by now, Jackson had learned that Pope's corps were all together, foiling his plan of defeating each in separate actions. Yeah. He remained in position until August 12th, then withdrew to Gordonsville. August 13th, Lee sent Longstreet to reinforce Jackson. He's like, come on, man.
I still think that, Lee has a little bit of doubts with Jackson.
Yeah.
That's why he sent his boy Longstreet.
Right.
You go check that shit out. I don't want you to engage. Just make sure everything's run smoothly and report back. Stat.
Make sure Jackson's not eating biscuits.
Right. Sleeping next to a tree.
With a biscuit in his mouth.
Right.
Stupid.
Idiot. August 22nd to the 25th. From August 22nd to the 25th, the two armies fought a series of minor actions along the Rappahannock River. Heavy rains had swollen the river, and Lee was unable to force a crossing. By this time, reinforcements from Army of Potomac were arriving from the peninsula. Lee's new plan, in the face of all these additional forces outnumbering him, was to send Jackson and Stewart. Oh, he's throwing Stewart in there, huh?
Jeb.
With half of the army on a flanking march to cut Pope's line of communication. The Orange and Alexandria Railroad. Okay, so we got another railroad to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Pope would be forced to retreat and could be defeated while moving and vulnerable. Yeah, it's usually when it's...
Maybe. That's what they're hoping.
Right. Stonewall departed on the 25th of August and reached Salem, present-day Marshall, that very night.
Marshall, Virginia?
Okay.
Okay.
Salem. There were a lot of Salems back in the day. What was it with witchcraft back in the day?
Not all Salem was associated with witchcraft.
I mean, that's how I see
I'm
it.
pretty sure this Salem was probably after the Salem, Massachusetts.
Werewolves?
This is what this Salem had. They all have like mythological creatures. Salem, Connecticut had like vampires or something. They were killing people.
I don't think there was vampires in America. I think that's a...
Have you ever seen it?
That's a Europe thing, isn't it?
Interview with a Vampire?
With Brad Pitt?
Are they in America? I don't know.
I don't think so. Where's Transylvania?
What are you talking about? Transylvania is in
Romania.
Romania.
Where's Romania?
In Romania.
Where's that?
Romania.
By Hungary and Germany?
Somewhere around there.
Is it really?
Definitely by Russia and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Abraham Lincoln fought vampires, so they had to have been in America.
That was a good movie, too.
Killed his mama.
No, that's sad.
Mm-hmm. Even on August 26th, after passing around Pope's girlfriend.
Oh, shit. Nice.
On the evening, August 26th, after passing around Pope's right flank via Thoroughfare Gap, Jackson's wing of the army struck the Orange and Alexandria Railroad at Bristol Station. And before daybreak on August 27th, marched to capture and destroy the massive capture and destroy. They wanted to capture and destroy the massive Union supply depot at Manassas Junction, which they did.
Right.
The surprise movement forced Pope into abrupt retreat from his defensive line along the Rappahannock.
Right.
During the night of August 27-28, Jackson marched his divisions north to the first Bull Run Manassas battlefield, where he took position behind an unfinished railroad grade below Stony Ridge.
Okay.
The defensive position was a good one.
Oh, I bet so.
Heavy woods allowed the Confederates to conceal themselves while maintaining good observation points of the Warrenton Turnpike, the likely avenue of Union movement, only a few hundred yards to the south.
Oh, shit.
They got him, dude. They're like just sitting there, and they're just going to pile out Union and just get mowed down, probably.
Man. Dude, what a sight.
Right.
There were good approach roads for Longstreet to join Jackson, or for Jackson to retreat to Bull Run Mountains if he could not be reinforced in time. So either way, they had everything.
Yeah, they had a battle plan and an exit strategy.
Finally, the unfinished railroad grade offered
has come back.
Right. The unfinished railroad grade offered cuts and fills that could be used as ready-made entrenchments.
Nice.
In the Battle of Thoroughfare Gap on August 28th, Longstreet's wing broke.
Oh, no.
It broke through the light
That's
Union
right,
resistance.
guys. We were supposed to do the Thoroughfare Gap before Bull Run because it's on the same day.
That's right.
Guess we're not doing it now.
No, we're telling you all about it now.
Oh, right here. Yeah.
Longstreet's wing broke through the right Union resistance and marched through the gap to join Jackson.
That's pretty much all it was going to be anyways.
Yeah. This seemingly inconsequential action virtually ensured Pope's defeat during the coming battles because it would allow the two wings of Lee's army to unite on the Manassas battlefield.
Maybe it's a little bit more important. After all, huh?
We just told you.
Right. An exact estimate of both armies' strength at the battle is not possible, as different reports and returns provide differing figures.
Well, you put them together and you
median.
You get an average.
The median. The total strength of the Army of Northern Virginia cavalry and artillery included was slightly less than 55,000 men. Factoring in only infantry, the effective Confederate strength was probably at about 50,000 men, probably as low as 47,000.
Either way.
Union strength was around 63 total thousand men if Banks' Corps is excluded, as it was not present at the battle aside from a few detachments. Oh, geez, just the Army of Northern Virginia was 55,000 men.
Right.
Holy crap.
Right.
That's huge.
Right.
Yeah, Banks doesn't really count because he wasn't there. Total Union strength with Banks added in was approximately 70,000.
Right.
So if they needed them, that's what it would be there.
I'm guessing there's about
70,000 to about 50,000 though?
There's probably about 50,000 there.
Right.
Well, the Second Manassas began on August 28th under Jackson's observation just outside Gainesville, near the farm of John Browner family. Moved along to the Warrenton Turnpike. It consisted of units from Brigadier General Rufus King's division, the brigades of Brigadier General John P. Hatch, John Gibbon, Abner Doubleday, and Marcina R. Patrick. Marcina, probably.
Sure.
Marcina. And they were marching eastward to concentrate with the rest of Pope's army at Centreville. So these guys getting some army guys with them at Centreville.
Yeah.
King was not with his division because he had suffered a serious epileptic attack.
Oh, geez. He has epilepsy. What is
Right.
blinking so crazy?
Blinking so crazy.
All right.
Maybe he couldn't get his matches lit.
Oh, yeah, right.
He had to light them a lot. It triggered it.
Right. Look at it.
And he spilled his bucket of tobacco. That's all he had. I would be pissed. I wouldn't go to battle the next day either.
Too cranky.
Right. Jackson, who had been relieved to hear earlier that Longstreet's men were on their way to join him, he's like, "Oh, nice." Displayed himself prominently to the Union troops. Oh, damn.
He's like, I'm here.
He went out there, and when he had to take a pee, he was just like, whoop, and pissed right in front of the Union troops. And he displayed himself prominently. Is that what he did?
No, it's even more crazy.
Oh. Jackson, who had been relieved to hear earlier that Longstreet's men were on his way to join him, he's like, yes. So he was like, you know what? Guess what? I'm going to display ourselves prominently to the Union troops. And you know what he did? He rode up next to the marching Federals in his horse as a farmer. To horror of his aides, but his presence was disregarded as the Federals had no interest in a seemingly harmless farmer. This guy. Holy shit.
Oh, my.
Holy shit.
Holy shit.
He's like, guess what? Hey, check this out.
He's like, watch
He's like, hey, man, hold my beer.
hold my biscuit.
Hold my biscuit. I'll be right back.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
Concerned that Pope might be withdrawing his army behind Bull Run to link up with McClellan's arriving forces, Jackson determined to attack.
Dude, what if they would have
Captured him?
right?
I mean, his own fault. He's an idiot.
That's a risk.
What a dumbass.
Wow, that is pretty stupid.
Returning to his position behind the tree line, he told his subordinates, bring out your men, gentlemen. Okay. Bring out your gentlemen. At about 6:30 p.m., Confederate artillery began shelling the portion of the column to their front. John Gibbon's Black Hat Brigade, later to be named the Iron Brigade.
Okay.
Gibbon, a former artilleryman, responded with fire from Battery B, the 4th U.S. Artillery.
All right.
The artillery exchange halted King's column. Hatch's brigade had proceeded past the area, and Patrick's men in the rear of the column sought cover, leaving Gibbon and Doubleday to respond to Jackson's attack.
Right. So they took the Union by surprise there. And everybody's running around.
Like, oh my gosh, what do we do?
Right.
Hey, it's that farmer.
I know.
Idiots.
Well, Gibbon assumed that since Jackson was supposedly at Centerville, according to Pope, and having just seen the 14th Brooklyn of Hatch's brigade reconnoiter the position, that these were merely horse artillery cannons from Jeb Stuart's cavalry. He's like, nah, we should be all right, boys. Gibbon sent aides out to the other brigades with requests for reinforcements. Sent his staff officer Frank A. Haskell to bring the veteran 2nd Wisconsin Infantry up the hill to disperse the harassing cannons. He's like, you bring those guys up here, they know what they're doing. I trust the Wisconsin Infantry. They're veterans. Gibbon met the 2nd in the woods saying, if we can't get you up there quietly, we can capture those guns. Well, there ain't no guns up there.
Well, there are, but just not what you're thinking there.
Right.
A quote by Major General Stonewall Jackson says, our men on the left loaded and fired with the energy of madmen. The 6th worked with equal desperation. This stopped the rush of the enemy, and they halted and fired upon us their deadly musketry. Okay. During a few awful moments, I could see by the lurid light of the powder flashes the whole of both lines. The two were within 50 yards of each other, pouring musketry into each other as fast as men could load and shoot.
Damn.
Oh, no, that was said by Major Rufus R. Dawes of the 6th Wisconsin.
Right.
Then Stonewall Jackson says, in a few moments, our entire line was engaged in a fierce and sanguinary struggle with the enemy. As one line was repulsed, another took its place and pressed forward as if determined by force of numbers and fury of assault to drive us from our positions.
Right.
The 2nd Wisconsin, under the command of Colonel Edgar O'Connor, advanced obliquely back through the woods the Federal column was passing through. When the 430 men emerged from the woods on John Bronner's farm, they were quietly formed and advanced up the hill. Upon reaching the plateau, they deployed skirmishers who drove back Confederate skirmishers. All right, look at them. They're coming in doing what they're told to do, I guess.
So everybody's holding on strong on each side. They soon received a heavy volley into their right flank by 800 men of the fabled Stonewall Brigade, commanded by Colonel William S. Baylor. Absorbing the volley from 150 yards, the 2nd Wisconsin did not waver.
You got to give me more than that.
But they replied with a devastating volley at the Virginians in Bronner's Orchard. The Confederates returned fire when the lines were only 80 yards away. As units, dang, dude, that's less than a football field.
Yes.
Obviously. As units were added by both sides, the battle lines remained close together. A stand-up fight with little cover. Trading mass volleys for over 2 hours just right in front of each other, dude. That's like...
It's like how you see in the movies, dude.
Right. It's like
the line, and then people are just
right. It's like thousands of people just standing in each other's faces, and
every volley, who's ever on the front line,
right.
20 people are dropping,
right,
and then you just step up, take their place, and
they're taking turns like punching each other in the face.
Right. It's like
rock'em
sock'em cowboys,
right.
Cowboys.
Either way,
robots or whatever. Right.
Jackson described the action as fierce and sanguinary, while the North's Gibbon added his 19th Indiana to the battle. Stonewall, personally directing the actions of his regiments instead of passing orders to Division Commander Major General Richard S. Ewell, sent in 3 Georgia regiments belonging to Brigadier General Alexander R. Lawton's brigade. Well, the North's Gibbon countered this advance with his 7th Wisconsin. He was like, you can do that? I'll bring you my 7th Wisconsin. Then Jackson ordered Brigadier General Isaac R. Trimble's brigade to support Lawton. He was like, all right, I'm bringing in Isaac's brigade to support Lawton. And Gibbons was like, all right, here's the 6th Wisconsin.
Right.
Damn.
After Trimble's brigade entered the action, Gibbon needed to fill a gap in his line between the 6th Wisconsin and the rest of the Iron Brigade regiments. Doubleday sent in the 56th Pennsylvania and the 76th New York, who advanced through the woods and checked the new Confederate advance.
Yeah, they couldn't have been 54th. 54th was the black one, wasn't it?
Don't know.
Oh, that's in Massachusetts.
Right. Sure. These men arrived at the scene after dark, and both Trimble and Lawton launched uncoordinated assaults against them.
Uncoordinated?
Yeah. Horse artillery under Captain John Pelham was ordered forward by Jackson and fired at the 19th Indiana from less than 100 yards. The engagement ended around 9 p.m. with Gibbon's men slowly retreating backwards, still firing, making their line at the edge of the woods. Doubleday's regiments retired to the turnpike in an orderly fashion. So, all right, boys, done for the night. We'll be back in about 3 hours, probably.
Right. Well, the fight was essentially a stalemate, but at a heavy cost. Over 1,150 Union, 1,250 Confederate casualties.
Not all dead.
Just in this little thing. The 2nd Wisconsin lost 276 of 430 engaged.
Jeez.
Stonewall Brigade lost 340 out of 800 engaged.
Jeez.
2 Georgia regiments, Trimble's 21st and Lawton's 26th, each lost more than 70%.
Jeez.
In all, 1 of every 3 men engaged in the fight was shot.
Jeez, dude.
Confederate Brigadier General William B. Taliaferro, he wrote this. In this fight, there was no maneuvering and very little tactics.
Right, you just stand there and shoot.
It was a question of endurance, and both endured.
All right.
Teleferro was wounded, and so was Ewell, whose left leg was shattered by a minay ball and had to be amputated.
Oh, no. Ewell.
Which removed him from action for the next 10 months.
Jeez, dude. Hey, he came back, though, huh?
Good for him.
Jackson had not been able to achieve a decisive victory with his superior force, which is about 6,200 men compared to Gibbon's 2,100.
Oh, wow. That's sad.
Due to darkness.
Oh, whatever. Sick of that
His
shit.
piecemeal deployment of forces, the loss of 2 of his division commanders, and the tenacity of the enemy.
Wow.
But he had achieved a strategic intent, attracting the attention of John Pope.
Okay.
Pope wrongly assumed that the fight at the Bronner Farm occurred as Jackson was retreating from Centerville. Pope believed he had bagged Johnson and sought to capture him before he could be reinforced by Longstreet. Pope, you're an idiot.
Right.
Pope's dispatch sent that evening to Major General Philip Kearny stated in part, General McDowell has intercepted the retreat of the enemy and is now in his front.
Uh-oh.
Unless he can escape by a pass leading to the north to the night, he must be captured.
Oh, shit.
Gibbon conferred with King Patrick and Doubleday as to the next move because McDowell was lost in the woods.
Oh,
quote
shit.
unquote.
Right. Dark. Lost in the woods.
Right.
The division was in an exposed position with 2 of its brigades badly cut up, facing Stonewall Jackson's entire corps.
Yep. They still don't know this somehow.
Right. Although the Union generals did not know exactly how many men Jackson had with him, it was almost certainly a far greater number than 4,000 men in King's division.
Yep.
Moreover, Confederate prisoners taken in the fighting around Bronner's Farm claimed that Jackson's command numbered between 60 to 70,000,
Of course.
and was poised to strike at first light the next morning. Reynolds and Sigel were some miles away and would not be on the scene until morning, by which time Jackson could easily crush King. Ricketts was closer, but had Longstreet fallen far behind. Since staying in place at Groveton was clearly unacceptable, the only other option were retreating either to Manassas Junction or Centerville.
Jeez. Well, Gibbon recommended the former, which is Manassas Junction, since the exact disposition of the enemy was unknown, and going to Centerville risked a disastrous march across his front.
I mean, it did.
King finally agreed, and the division formed up into columns and moved south to Manassas Junction.
Okay.
At the same time, Ricketts had arrived at a similar conclusion and marched south and away from Jackson as well, in his case, towards Bristow Station.
All right.
Pope issued orders to his subordinates to surround Jackson, attack him in the morning, but Jackson was not where Pope thought he was, nor were Pope's own troops where he assumed.
Oh, jeez.
This dude's an idiot. He might be more dumber than McClellan.
B7, miss.
Right. He believed that McDowell and Sigel were blocking Jackson's retreat west across the Bull Run Mountains, when in fact, King and Ricketts had both retreated southward, while Sigel and Reynolds were south and east of Jackson, who had no intention at all of retreating and was well dug in and awaiting Longstreet's arrival.
Oh, jeez.
Which Pope refused to believe was a possibility.
Oh, that can't happen.
There's no way.
We're good.
Jeez,
We're good.
Dude.
Well, Stonewall had initiated the battle at Bronner's Farm with the intent of holding Pope until Longstreet arrived with the remainder of the Army of Northern Virginia. Longstreet's 25,000 men began their march from Thoroughfare Gap at 6 a.m. on the 29th of August. Jackson sent Stuart to guide the initial elements of Longstreet's column into positions that Jackson had pre-selected. He's like, when they get here, you put them over here. And
Tell him to go here, here, here.
While he waited for their arrival, Jackson reorganized his defense in case Pope attacked him that morning, positioning 20,000 men in a 3,000-yard line to the south of Stony Ridge. Damn. Noticing the buildup of the First Corps troops along the Manassas Sudley Road, he ordered A.P. Hill's brigades behind the railroad grade near Sudley Church on his left flank.
All right. Aware that his position was geographically weak because the heavy woods in the area prevented effective deployment of artillery, A.P. Hill placed his brigades in 2 lines with Brigadier General Maxcy Gregg's South Carolina Brigade, Brigadier General Edward L. Thomas's Georgia Brigade in the front.
All right.
In the center of the line, Jackson placed 2 brigades from Ewell's division, now under the command of Brigadier General Alexander Lawton.
All right.
And on the right, William B. Taliaferro's division, now commanded by Brigadier General William E. Stark.
Oh.
Jackson's position straddled a railroad grade that had been dug out by the Manassas Gap Railroad Company in the 1850s and abandoned on the eve of the war. They're like, fuck this, I'm out of here.
Right.
While some parts of the railroad grade were a good defensive position, others were not.
Okay.
Moreover, the heavily wooded terrain largely precluded the use of artillery aside from the right end of the line, which faced open fields.
Right. I mean, that's all right, though.
Okay.
Fitz.
We don't need artillery, boys. We're cavalry and an infantry in and up this one. Huh?
Yeah. Fitz Lee's cavalry, along with a battery of horse artillery, were anchoring the left flank of the Confederate line in case any Union troops attempted to cross Sudley Ford and get in Jackson's rear. Like, we don't want that. The Confederate right flank was potentially vulnerable, as it was held by Taliaferro's division, which is now Stark's, the smallest of Jackson's 3 divisions, and which also had taken significant casualties in the fighting at Brommer's Farm.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson thus placed the brigades of Early and Forno on the right end of the line. Both large brigades had not been engaged the previous evening and were very fresh.
Hey.
Still hungry, but fresh.
Right.
Aside from bolstering Stark's understrength division, they were to watch and give notice of Longstreet's arrival.
All right. Daybreak on the 29th, Pope had learned to his surprise and annoyance that Ricketts and King had both withdrawn south.
Wow.
In addition, John Gibbon arrived at Centerville and informed Pope that the retreat from Groveton was a mistake,
Right.
ignoring the fact that he recommended it in the first place. He did too. Let him on.
He did.
Gibbon also stated that he had no idea what had become of McDowell, to which an infuriated Pope replied, "Gosh damn, McDowell. He's never where he's supposed to be."
Yeah. Oh, geez. Who's that sound like?
Stonewall?
It was, right?
Right.
For a
Yep.
couple episodes.
Yeah. Gibbon wrote down, he's never where he's supposed to be because he's playing farmer.
But Lee never said that. Well, kind of. He did it in a sort of way.
I sure would have liked it if you were here earlier. Sure would have been nice to see you earlier.
Nice to see you earlier, General.
Gibbon wrote down to
Got a
Manassas.
little bit of biscuit on you.
Wipe that out. He grabs out of his beard and eats it. Gibbon rode down to Manassas, where he encountered Porter's troops resting and drawing rations.
Oh.
In addition, King, exhausted and ill from epileptic attacks, had
geez.
turned over command of the division to John Hatch. McDowell was there as well, after spending most of the previous day wandering aimlessly around Prince William County and not happy to learn of Pope's orders.
Right.
This dude's just like, I don't know.
He's like, we don't even care. Well, in effect, King would accompany Porter, while Reynolds was temporarily attached to Sigel's corps. And Ricketts was still some miles away at Bristow Station, in effect leaving McDowell without any command. Jeez. Pope, on the 29th of August, remained firmly wedded to the idea that Jackson was in a desperate situation.
Dude, why would he be in a desperate situation?
Right. Not only an incorrect assumption, but one that also depended on the coordination of all the corps and divisions under his command, none of which were intended them to be. He was like, where are these? They should be over there. Like, no, they're not there.
They're
Well, what do you mean?
17 miles away.
Well, these guys should be over here. No, they're not there. Well, at least this guy's stuff's over here. No.
Let's see. Well, the end result of that was that Pope's complicated attack plans for August 29th ended up as a simple frontal assault by Sigel's corps, the only troops in position that morning. Well, at least Sigel, right? They were widely considered one of the Army's weak links.
Oh,
Sigel, though being a trained and experienced military officer, being seen as an inept political general. Also, a large portion of the men being German immigrants suffering from prejudices that had performed poorly in battles against Jackson in Shenandoah Valley during the spring. Moreover, until Pope himself arrived, Sigel was the ranking officer on the field and would be in overall charge of the battle.
Oh.
And he's like, I don't think so.
Right. Well, Pope's intention was to move against Jackson on both flanks. He ordered Fitz John Porter to move toward Gainesville and attack what he considered to be Confederate right flank. He ordered Sigel to attack Jackson's left at daybreak. Sigel, unsure of Jackson's dispositions, chose to advance along a broad front, with Brigadier General Robert C. Schneck's division, supported by Brigadier General John F. Reynolds' division, McDowell's 3rd Corps, and that was going to be on the left. Brigadier General Robert Milroy's Independent Brigade in the center, Brigadier General Carl Schurz's division on the right. Schurz's 2 brigades, moving north on the Manassas-Sudley Road, were the first to contact Stonewall's men. And that was around 7 a.m.
Early morning fighting, boys. Didn't even have our coffee.
Yep, still some fog.
Right. The actions of Sigel's attack against A.P. Hill's division were typical of all the attacks near Stony Ridge that day. Okay. Although the unfinished railroad provided natural defensive positions in some places, in general, the Confederates maintained all but a static defense, absorbing the Union blows and following up with vigorous counterattacks.
Okay.
These were the same tactics that Jackson would employ at the Battle of Antietam, right? Antietam a few weeks later. Schurz's 2 brigades under Brigadier General Alexander Schimmelpfennig and Colonel Władimir Krzyzanowski.
Polish, huh?
Yeah, skirmished heavily with Gregg and Thomas, with both sides committed their forces piecemeal.
Okay.
Hand-to-hand combat ensued in the woods to the west of Sudley Road as Krzyzanowski's brigade clashed with Gregg's. As Milroy heard the sound of battle to his right, he ordered his brigade forward. The 82nd Ohio and the 5th West Virginia in the front, and the 2nd West Virginia and the 4th West Virginia in the rear as support.
Okay. Well, the 2 forward regiments were immediately met with volleys of Confederate musket fire. In confusion, the 82nd Ohio found an undefended ravine in the middle of the railroad embankment known as the Dump and got in the rear of Isaac Trimble's Confederate brigade. Ooh. However, Trimble was quickly reinforced by part of Bradley Johnson's Virginia Brigade on the 80th, and the 82nd Ohio was forced to retreat. Didn't work out well for him, did it? Its commander, Colonel James Cantwell, was shot dead, and the regiment fled in panic, causing the 5th West Virginia behind them to also retreat in disorder.
Jeez.
Disorder!
Nobody on the field. We're dying. We're dying.
In just 20 minutes of fighting, Milroy's brigade had taken 300 casualties.
Damn.
Schenck and Reynolds, subjected to a heavy artillery barrage, answered with counter battery fire, but avoided a general advance of their infantry, instead merely deploying skirmishers, which got into a low-level firefight with Jubal Early's brigade of the Confederates.
While this was going on, Meade's brigade came. Hey, General Meade.
Hey, here's somebody maybe with some brains.
Right. Meade's brigade came across wounded men from King's division who had been abandoned by their comrades and left on the field all night. What a bunch of pussies. Medical personnel attempted to evacuate as many of the wounded as possible under the ongoing firefight. Is there like a unwritten thing here? You don't mess with people that are trying to remove dead, or is it just free for all?
Right, you don't go into
you don't go into the battlefield, obviously, but
or in like hospital camps. You don't do anything with those.
I don't know, because I'm pretty sure the Confederates attacked a hospital thing, didn't they?
Well, they weren't supposed to. Yeah. I believe they did, though. Yeah.
I'm talking about if you're trying to retrieve from the battlefield.
Trying to retreat or trying to get people
retrieve from the battlefield.
Yeah,
people, I think you're just going to get killed. I don't think they'd stop that, dude. I don't care. They're like, here's another one. We're going to get them. You're not getting anybody. They want all of them to die anyway. So
true.
Yeah, what are you going to do? With his brigade in the shreds, Milroy attempted to rally survivors. He then came across Brigadier General Julius Stahel, one of Schenck's brigadiers, and ordered him to defend against any counterattack from the Confederates coming from the woods. Although 100 or so Confederates came bounding out of the woods in pursuit of Milroy, they were quickly driven back by artillery fire, and Stahel returned to his original position south of the turnpike.
So nothing really.
Nothing.
There's a bunch of stupidity right
except
there.
Except for the 5th Virginia, Milroy.
Right.
20 minutes of fighting, 300 guys gone.
West Virginia.
Yeah.
Assuming that Kearny's division of the 3rd Corps was poised to support him, Schurz ordered another assault against the Confederates' hill around 10 a.m. Now that Schimmelpfennig's brigade, plus the 1st New York from Kearny's division, had come up to reinforce Krasinski.
Krasinski.
The fighting in the woods west of Sudley Road resumed, and it came to a standstill until the 14th Georgia came down to reinforce the South Carolinians.
South Carolinians and Georgians.
They let loose multiple volleys of musket fire that sent Krasinski's men running in panic. The Confederates came charging after the disorganized mass of Union troops, clubbing, bayoneting, and knifing resistors.
Jeez.
But as they exited the woods and came out into the open ground, Union artillery positioned on Dogan's Ridge, they opened fire.
They're like, surprise, motherfucker.
And the Confederates like, retreat.
Right.
Retreat.
To the north, Schimmelpfennig.
How about not retreat, about regroup? I like that word better.
Oh, it's still retreat.
Right.
To the north, Schimmelpfennig's 3 regiments, 61st Ohio, 74th Pennsylvania, 8th West Virginia, engaged part of Gregg and Branch's brigades, but were forced to retreat as well.
Oh, look at that shit.
Kearny, however, did not move forward.
Uh-oh.
His 3 brigades instead marched to the banks of Bull Run Creek, where Orlando Poe's brigade forded the creek.
Oh.
The arrival of Poe's brigade aroused panic at Jackson's headquarters as the dreaded scenario of Union troops getting in the Confederate rear seemed to be turning to reality.
What's Jackson going to do?
Jackson ordered his wagons evacuated from the area, and Major John Pelham's horse artillery wheeled into position.
Oh, shit.
The horse artillery and several companies of the 1st Virginia Cavalry engaged in a firefight. Engaged in a firefight with Poe's brigade for several minutes.
All right. Nobody on the Union side realized that they were getting into the rear of the Confederate line. Oh, shit. So Jackson's freaking out.
He doesn't even dude.
And the sight of gray infantry in the distance was enough to discourage Poe from advancing any further. He's like, whoa, what the hell's that? So he pulled back across the creek.
What an idiot, dude.
Robertson's brigade remained in position along the banks of the creek, while Birney's 7 regiments scattered. One was directed to support the Corps' artillery on Matthews Hill. Another held idly in reserve. and the remaining 3 accompanied Poe to the banks of the creek until Confederate artillery fire became too hot to handle, and they pulled south into the woods, where they joined in skirmishing with A.P. Hill's troops. They're like, damn, they're everywhere.
Like, well, we ain't gonna go here. We'll go skirmish with these guys, I guess.
Right.
Sigel, for his part, was satisfied with the progress of the battle so far, assuming he was merely supposed to perform a holding action until Pope arrived.
Right.
Right. He's like, I think I'm doing all right.
They're doing pretty good.
By 1 p.m., his sector was reinforced by the division of Major General Joseph Hooker from the 3rd Corps and the brigade of Brigadier General Isaac Stevens of the 9th Corps.
Right.
Pope also arrived on the battlefield, where Sigel graciously ceded command to him. He said, "There you go, sir." He expected to see the culmination of his victory, but instead he found that Sigel's attack had failed completely, with Schur's and Milroy's troops shot up, disorganized, and incapable of further action.
Really?
Reynolds and Schenk's divisions were fresh, but they were committed to guarding the Army's left flank.
Oh, shit.
However, Heinzelman's corps and the 2 divisions of Reno were also available, giving a total of 8 fresh brigades.
Oh.
But Pope also assumed that McDowell would be on the field and that McClellan would come down from Washington, D.C. with the 2nd and 6th Corps.
Damn.
And that McDowell is never where he's supposed to be.
Pope's feeling pretty good. He's like, I'm a good spy here.
All right.
Well, there was no sign of any of these troops anywhere.
Right.
Pope momentarily considered withdrawing to Centerville, but became worried of the political fallout that would result if he was seen as insufficiently aggressive.
Right. Dude, Abraham Lincoln hired this guy to be aggressive.
Right.
Be aggressive.
Right. He's like, dude.
He's like, all we've been doing is retreating.
Right. Around this time, a messenger arrived and delivered Pope a note announcing that McDowell's course was close up and would soon be on the field. He's like, okay.
He's like, all right.
Pope's like, all right, well, let's see. Pope thus decided that he would drive at Jackson Center.
Yep.
By this time, Longstreet's initial units were in position to Jackson's right.
That's another 20 G's, dude.
Brigadier General John B. Hood's division straddled the turnpike, loosely connected with Jackson's right flank. So there's that.
Right there.
To Hood's right were the divisions of Brigadier General James L. Kemper and David R. Jones, and everybody called him Neighbor.
Hey, neighbor.
Brigadier General Cadmus M. Wilcox's division arrived last and was placed into reserve.
He's like, that was my strategy. He said, I want to arrive last so I can be reserved.
He was waiting in the woods.
Right. he's like, all right, guys, go.
Is that the last one?
Well, Jeb Stuart's cavalry encountered Porter, Hatch, and McDowell moving up the Manassas-Gainesville Road, and a brief but sharp firefight halted the Union column. Then a courier arrived with a message for Porter and McDowell, a controversial document from Pope that has become known as the Joint Order. Historian John J. Hennessy described the order as a masterpiece of contradiction and obfuscation that would become the focal point of decades of wrangling.
Really?
It described the attacks on Jackson's left, which were already underway, but was unclear about what Porter and McDowell were supposed to do.
Right.
Rather than moving to Gainesville and striking Jackson's supposedly unprotected right flank, it described a move toward Gainesville. And as soon as communication is established with the other divisions, the whole command shall halt. It may be necessary to fall back behind Bull Run to Centerville tonight.
Okay.
Nowhere in the order did Pope explicitly direct Porter and McDowell to attack, and he concluded the order with, if any considerable advantage are to be gained from departing from this order, it will not be strictly carried out, rendering the document virtually useless as a military order.
Yeah, that's
hey man,
the stupidest thing I've
we
heard in
should
my
do
life.
this, but also we might not have to, so don't, just don't take it so serious.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
Stupid.
Wow. Meanwhile, Stuart's cavalry under Colonel Thomas Roser deceived the Union generals by dragging tree branches behind a regiment of horses to simulate great clouds of dust from large columns of marching soldiers. Hey, that's a good idea. Mm-hmm. At this time, McDowell received a report from his cavalry commander, Brigadier John Brigadier General John Buford.
Hey,
there's Buford. Haven't seen
no,
him yet. Have we seen Buford yet?
Nope. They call him John Big Buford.
Anyway, Buford reported that 17 regiments of infantry, 1 battery, 500 cavalry were moving through Gainesville at around 8:15 a.m. This was Longstreet's wing arriving from Thoroughfare Gap, which we already knew Longstreet's already.
Right.
And it warned the 2 Union generals that trouble lay to their front. The Union advance was again halted. For some reason, McDowell neglected to forward Buford's report to Pope until 7 p.m. What?
Holy shit, this dude saw him at 8:15 a.m.
Right. So the Army commander was operating under 2 severe misconceptions. One, that Longstreet was not near the battlefield, and dos, that Porter and McDowell were marching to attack Jackson's right flank, which neither of them were true.
God.
So Pope's like, we're in good shape. So can you really blame that? I mean, I guess you can blame it on him since he's the leader, right? But can you really blame it on him?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Can you?
Yes. As Longstreet's men were placed into their final positions, General Lee ordered an offensive against the Union left.
Uh-oh.
Longstreet later remembered that Lee was inclined to engage as soon as practical, but did not order it. Longstreet, however, saw that the divisions of Reynolds and Schenck extended south of the Warrenton Turnpike, overlapping half of his line, and he argued against making the attack at that time.
Oh.
Lee eventually relented when Jeb Stuart reported that the force on the Gainesville-Manassas Road, which was Porter and McDowell, was formidable.
Okay.
Pope, assuming that the attack on Jackson's right would proceed as he thought he had ordered, authorized 4 separate attacks against Jackson's front with the intent of diverting the Confederates' attention until Porter delivered the fatal blow.
Right, which couldn't happen because guess what?
Couldn't and wouldn't. Union General Brigadier General Cuvier Grover's brigade attacked at 3 p.m., expecting to be supported by Kearny's division. With Isaac Stevens' division behind him as support, Grover moved his brigade into the woods and charged right at Edward Thomas's Georgia Brigade.
Uh-oh.
Grover's men got all the way to the railroad embankment and unleashed a volley of near point-blank fire on Thomas's regiment,
Shit.
followed by a bayonet charge. Taken by surprise, the Georgians fell back and fierce hand-to-hand combat ensued.
Fierce.
Maxcy Gregg's South Carolinians came to reinforce them, followed by Dorsey Pender's brigade of North Carolinians. So South and North working together, right? Pender hit Grover's brigade in the flank and sent the men fleeing in panic with over 350 casualties.
Dang.
Pender's brigade then surged out of the woods in pursuit of Grover, but once again, the Union artillery on Dogan Ridge was too powerful.
That artillery spot.
A strong barrage forced Pender to retreat.
Yeah, that artillery spot right there is just, it's killing them. It's killing the South right now.
Yeah, well,
Literally.
right.
Meanwhile, to the north, Joseph Carr's brigade had been engaged in a low-level fight with Confederate troops. In the process, wounding Isaac Trimble, one of Jackson's most dependable brigadiers since the Valley Campaign the previous spring. With Nelson Taylor's brigade of Hooker's division in support, James Nagel's brigade of Reno's division surged forward and slammed into Trimble's brigade, temporarily leaderless.
Oh.
Trimble's men were routed and began to retreat in disorder. But like all the previous Union attacks during the day, Nagel was unsupported and had no chance against overwhelming enemy numbers.
Union, you suck, dude.
Right. Henry Forno's Louisiana Brigade counterattacked, drove Nagel back. Bradley Johnson and Colonel Leroy Stafford's 9th Louisiana joined in the assault. To the south, John Hood's division had just arrived on the field, forcing back Milroy and Nagel.
Oh, okay. Well, Milroy's already exhausted brigade fell apart and started to run from the onslaught.
Damn right they did.
To check the Confederate counterattack, Pope pulled Schenck from the south of the turnpike with artillery support, forced the Confederates back to the shelter of the railroad embankment.
I'll tell you that
While
artillery.
all this was going on, Kearny still remained out of the action.
Oh, why? Come on, Kearny.
Reynolds was ordered to conduct a spoiling attack south of the turnpike and encountered Longstreet's men, causing him to call off his demonstration.
You ain't getting. He's seen 25,000 strong.
He said, nope. Pope dismissed Reynolds' concern as a case of mistaken identity, insisting that Reynolds had run into Porter's 5th Corps, preparing to attack Jackson's flank. I think he would know.
Right.
Jesse Reno ordered a 9th Corps brigade under Colonel James Nagel to attack the center of Jackson's line again.
Oh.
This time, Brigadier General Isaac Trimble's brigade was driven back from the railroad embankment, but Confederate counterattacks restored the line and pursued Nagel's troops back into the open fields until Union artillery once again halted their advance.
Yeah, that artillery, they got to do something with that.
Yeah.
They got to do something with that.
Set up their own. Why are they not?
Now, about 4:30 p.m., Pope finally sent an explicit order to Porter to attack. But his aide, which is his nephew, lost his way and did not deliver the message till about 6:30. In any event, Porter was in no better position to attack then than he had been earlier in the day. But in anticipation of the attack that would not come, Pope ordered Kearny to attack Jackson's far left flank, intending to put strong pressure on both ends of the line. Well, at 5 p.m., Kearny sent Robinson and Birney's brigades surging forward into A.P. Hill's exhausted division. The brunt of the attack fell on Maxcy Gregg's, that's a hell of a name, right? Maxcy Gregg's brigade, which had defended against 2 major assaults over 8 hours that day and was nearly out of ammo in addition to having lost most of its officers. Wow. So these guys are like, they need a rest or something, or recuperate. As they fell back onto the edge of a hillside, Gregg lopped some wildflowers with his old Revolutionary War skipper. And he also said, "Let us die here, my men. Let us die here." Why?
Well, he's exhausted, have no bullets, and he's
right. Look at that.
With both Thomas's and Gregg's brigade on the verge of disintegrating, A.P. Hill sent a message to Jackson calling for help.
Ooh.
Meanwhile, Daniel Leisure's brigade of Isaac Stevenson's division crept around to the south and forced back James Archer's Tennessee brigade. Jubal Early's brigade, which had begun the day on the extreme right of the Confederate line, and Lawrence O'Brien Branch's brigade, which have thus far been held in reserve, counterattacked and drove back Kearny's division.
All right.
During the fight, one of Hill's brigadiers, Charles W. Field, was severely wounded in command of his brigade, which had also taken a beating over the course of the day. Well, that fell to Colonel John M. Brockenbrough of the 40th Virginia. All right.
South's getting a little beat up as well.
Yeah.
On the Confederate right, Longstreet observed a movement of McDowell's force away from his front. The First Corps was moving divisions to Henry House Hill to support Reynolds.
That old Henry House Hill.
This report caused Lee to revive his plan for an offensive in that sector. Longstreet once again argued against it, this time due to inadequate time before dusk. He's like, there's not enough time before dusk. He suggested instead that a reconnaissance in force could feel the position of the enemy and set up the Confederates for a morning attack.
Okay.
Lee argued that Hood's division was sent forward.
Or he agreed, and he sent Hood's division forward.
Lee agreed and sent Hood's divisions forward. As soon as McDowell arrived at Pope's headquarters, the latter urged him to move King's division forward. McDowell then informed Pope that King had fallen ill and relinquished command of the division to Brigadier General John P. Hatch, whom Pope had taken a considerable disliking to early in the campaign. He's like,
he had no choice now there, Pope.
Are you freaking serious?
That guy.
Is there anything I can do about it? No. Damn.
Well, Hatch had originally led a cavalry brigade and failed to carry out an order from Pope to raid down into Richmond outskirts.
Yeah, I remember that.
Displeased at this, Pope reassigned Hatch to the infantry command. He now ordered Hatch to go up to the Studley Road and attack, but Hatch protested that the road was clogged with Kearny's troops. It would not be possible to clear them out of the way before darkness.
Right.
Exasperated, Pope repeated his order for Hatch to advance on the Confederate right, but he was soon distracted by actions going on the other side of the line. He's like, oh, shit. John Hood's division had arrived on Jackson's right, and McDowell ordered Hatch to reinforce Reynolds, despite Hatch's protest that 2 of his 3 brigades were exhausted from the fight at Bronner's Farm the previous day. Doesn't matter, you pussy. You get out there and fight. You know how many other men are exhausted?
My goodness, what is going on here? Pope is a terrible...
No, it's not Pope. It's this Hatch guy being a fucking douchebag.
But Pope is a terrible enforcer.
Yeah, I should have slapped him fucking right across the face and like, get out there and do what I said, bitch.
Jeez. Well, Hatch ended up employing Doubleday's brigade out in front. Hood's division forced Hatch and Reynolds back to a position on Bald Hill, overrunning Chin Ridge in the process. As night fell, Hood pulled back from this exposed position. Longstreet and his subordinates argued to Lee that they should not be attacking a force they considered to be placed in a strong defensive position. And for the third time, Lee canceled the planned assault.
Yeah.
Right, this didn't make no sense.
Right.
Hood's withdrawal from Chin Ridge only reinforced Pope's belief that the enemy was retreating.
Pope, you're an
He
idiot.
still thinks this. When Pope learned from McDowell about Buford's report, he finally acknowledged that Longstreet was on the field. But he optimistically assumed that Longstreet was only there to reinforce Jackson while the entire Confederate army withdrew.
Oh, shut up.
Hood's division had, in fact, just done that.
Right.
Pope issued explicit orders for Porter's Corps to rejoin the main body of the army and plan for another offensive on August 30th. So these guys they're like, we're just going to keep on pushing these guys.
Well, good for that, but Pope's an idiot.
Right.
Historian A. Wilson Green argues that this was Pope's worst decision of the battle. Yeah, he should have just probably stopped.
Right.
Since he no longer had numerical superiority over the Confederates and did not possess any geographical advantage, the most prudent course would have been to withdraw his army over Bull Run and unite with McClellan's Army of the Potomac, which had 25,000 men nearby.
Right. What the hell's going on?
That evening, Pope hired Halleck with a report. Pope wired Halleck with a report of the day's fighting, describing it as severe, and estimated his losses at 7,000 to 8,000 men.
Damn.
He estimated Confederate losses at twice this many, an extremely incorrect estimation given that Jackson had been fighting a mostly defensive battle. Right. Although Confederate casualties were lower, their officer losses had been high, aside from the loss of 2 division commanders on August 28th. 3 brigadier commanders, Trimble Field and Colonel Henry Forno, had been wounded. For comparison, only 1 Union Brigade commander had been wounded so far, which was Colonel Daniel Leisure, and no general officer.
It's fine. That's because the Confederate officers and generals are usually out in front.
Right.
These Union guys
They like to observe.
Right. One of the historical controversies of the battle involves George B. McClellan's cooperation with John Pope. Late August, 2 full corps of Army Potomac, William B. Franklin's 6th Corps and Edward Sumner's 2nd Corps had arrived in Alexandria, but McClellan would not allow them to advance to Manassas because of what he considered an inadequate artillery, cavalry, and transportation support. But the artillery they had there was already.
Right.
He was accused by his political opponents of deliberately undermining Pope's position, and he did not help in his case in the history when he wrote to his wife on the 10th of August saying, Pope will be badly thrashed within 2 days, and they will be very glad to turn over the redemption of their affairs to me. I won't undertake it unless I have full and entire control.
Dude's a bitch.
This dude's Donald Trump.
Right.
He told Abe Lincoln on August 29th, and Abe was like, Abraham, please.
Right.
He told Abraham Lincoln on 29th of August that it might be wise to leave Pope to get out of his scrape and at once use all of our means to make the capital perfectly safe.
This dude, is pissed that he got replaced by Pope.
Right. And the Pope's an idiot. What is freaking Lincoln think?
I don't know who's more dumb, McClellan or Pope, though.
Yeah, but what was Lincoln thinking?
Who knows? Final element of Longstreet's command, the division of Major General Richard H. Anderson, marched 17 miles and arrived on the battlefield at 3 a.m.
Oh, shit.
August 30th. Exhausted and unfamiliar with the area, they halted on a ridge east of Groveton. At dawn, they realized they were in an isolated position too close to the enemy and fell back.
Oh, shit.
Pope's belief that the Confederate army was in retreat was reinforced by this movement, which came after the withdrawal of Hood's troops the night before. See, they were like, shit, we're in an isolated area. Let's move back.
Right.
And Pope's like, I told you.
Look at this shit.
Pope thus directed McDowell to move his entire corps up the Sudley Road and hit the Confederate right flank.
Oh, shit.
McDowell, however, protested this order, stating that he had no idea what was happening down on the Confederate left, and he would much prefer to have his troops on Chin Ridge.
Right. McDowell then said that it would make more sense to attack the Confederate right with Heintzelman's troops, since they were closer to this area.
Right.
Pope gave in, but decided to detach King's division to support Heintzelman. At an 8 a.m. council of war at Pope's headquarters, his subordinates attempted to convince their commander to move cautiously. He's like, we need to be cautious here. Probes of the Confederate line on Stony Ridge around 10 a.m. indicated that Stonewall Jackson's men were still firmly in their defensive positions. John F. Reynolds indicated that the Confederates were in great strength south of the turnpike. John Porter arrived later with similar intelligence. However, Heintzelman and McDowell conducted a personal reconnaissance that somehow failed to find Jackson's defensive line. How do you fail to find it? And Pope finally made up his mind to attack the retreating Southerners.
Retreating, huh? While Porter was bringing his corps up, a further mix-up in orders resulted in the loss of 2 brigades. Abram Sanders Piatt, what's the hell of a name, small brigade, which had been detached from the defenses of Washington and temporarily attached to the 5th Corps, and Charles Griffin's brigade both pulled out of Porter's main column, marched back down the Manassas Junction, then up to Centerville for some reason. Morrell, using an outdated set of orders from a day earlier, had assumed Pope was at Centerville, and he was expected to join him there. Piatt eventually realized that something was amiss and turned back around towards the battlefield, arriving on Henry House Hill about 4 p.m. Griffin and his division commander, Major General George W. Morrell, however, stayed at Centerville despite their discovery that Pope was not there. They're like, fuck this, I'm staying now.
Right.
Eventually, at 4 p.m., Griffin began moving his brigade towards the action, but by this point, Pope's army was in full retreat, and a mass of wagons and stragglers were blocking the roadway.
Oh, shit.
Additionally, the bridge over Cub Run was broken, making it impossible for him to move any further west.
Damn. As Ricketts' division approached the Confederate lines, it became clear that the enemy was still there and in force and was showing no sign of retreating whatsoever. Pope, unnerved to these reports, contemplated waiting for McClellan to arrive with the 2nd and 6th Corps, but then worried that McClellan would take credit for any victory in the battle. Oh, what a piece of shit.
These guys are politically, geez, dude.
So he then decided to attack immediately rather than wait.
Jeez.
Shortly after noon, Pope issued orders to Porter's corps, supported by Hatch and Reynolds, to advance west along the Turnpike. At the same time, Ricketts, Kearney, Hooker were to advance on the Confederate left. This dual movement would potentially crush the retreating Confederates, but he knows they're not retreating anymore.
Right.
So what the?
They still don't believe it.
But the Confederates were not retreating, and they were hoping to be attacked. They're like,
come at me, big boys.
Come on. Robert E. Lee was still waiting for an opportunity to counterattack with Longstreet's force. He still didn't even have those guys in there yet. Although he was not certain that Pope would attack that very day, Lee positioned 18 artillery pieces, finally, under Colonel Stephen D. Lee on high ground northeast of the Browners Farm, ideally situated to bombard the open fields in front of Jackson's position, obviously.
Right. Well, Porter's corps was actually not in position to pursue west on the Turnpike, but was in the woods north of the Turnpike near Groveton. Took about 2 hours to prepare the assault on Jackson's line, 10 brigades numbering roughly 10,000 with 28 artillery pieces on Dogan Ridge to support them.
Okay.
On the right, Ricketts' division would support Heintzelman, while Sigel's corps remained in reserve to the rear. Reynolds' division was stationed near Henry House Hill, and with King's division on its right. Porter would strike Jackson's right flank with his 1st division. Since General Morrell was not present, command of the remaining troops fell to Brigadier General Daniel Butterfield, the ranking brigadier in the division. George Sykes' division of regular army troops was held in reserve. So the only people that are regular army are in reserve.
Jeez.
I guess get all those volunteers and shit out of the way before us regulars.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
As noon approached and the sun climbed high in the sky, temperatures on the battlefield topped 90 degrees Fahrenheit for all of our foreign listeners.
It'd be like what, 100? No, like 60 degrees Celsius or something like that.
Well, I know 100 and something's like 32 degrees Celsius, so probably 28. Right?
Yeah. The South, however, attempted to strike the first blow. Elements, they shouldn't have done that.
Well, clearly it worked.
Elements of Hill's and Ewell's divisions came charging out of the woods and surprised some of Ricketts' men with a volley or two. But once again, the Union artillery on Dogan Ridge was too much for them. Ooh. And after being blasted by shell fire, they withdrew back to the line of unfinished railroad. Yeah, that's the artillery, but they can't go no further. The Union men faced a formidable task. Butterfield's division had to cross 600 yards of open pasture, land owned by widow Lucinda Dogan, the final 150 yards of which were steeply uphill.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And it was,
why isn't somebody positioned on the hill, first of all?
Right. And they had to do this to attack a strong position behind the unfinished railroad that they did not know was there. Porter then ordered John Hatch's division to support Butterfield's right flank. Hatch formed his 4 brigades into a line of battle, the attack being spearheaded by his own brigade, now commanded by Colonel Timothy Sullivan, since he assumed division command the day earlier.
Hatch's division had only about 300 yards to traverse, but was required to perform a complex right wheel maneuver under fire to hit the Confederate position squarely in its front.
Oh, right in the
They experienced devastating fire from Stephen Lee's batteries and then withering volleys from the infantry in the line.
Right.
In the confusion, Hatch was knocked from his horse by an artillery shell and taken off the field unconscious.
Oh, shit.
Nevertheless, they were able to break the Confederate line, routing the 48th Virginia infantry.
Wow.
The Stonewall Brigade rushed in to restore the line, taking heavy casualties, including its commander, Colonel Baylor.
Oh, shit.
In what was arguably the most famous incident of the battle, Confederates and Colonel Bradley T. Johnson's and Colonel Leroy Stafford's brigades fired so much that they ran out of ammo and resorted to throwing large rocks at the 24th New York, causing occasional damage and prompting some of the surprised New Yorkers to throw them back.
Oh.
They're just having a rock war.
Oh, shit.
You got to do what you got to do, man.
Damn. To support Jackson's exhausted defense, which was stretched to the breaking point, Longstreet's artillery added to the barrage against Union reinforcements attempting to move in, cutting them to pieces.
Ooh,
See, you got to have an artillery. Man, if the Union didn't have their artillery that was up on top of the hill,
would have long been routed
over
and retreated by now.
Hatch's brigade fell back in confusion.
What is this?
The men running into Patrick's brigade and causing them to also panic.
Jeez. They're running like, ah!
The mob quickly contacted Gibbon's brigade, which remained some distance to the rear, while Doubleday's brigade had inexplicably wandered away from the field.
Wandered away. They're just they're like little like 5-year-olds when they play baseball. They're just like sitting and playing with the dirt and shit.
Look, guys, it's a bunch of butterflies.
Oh, right. They're all over there trying to catch them.
Jeez.
What a bunch of idiots.
There's a creek nearby. Some are fishing.
Right.
Meanwhile, Butterfield's hard-pressed division was buckling under heavy Confederate musketry and artillery blasts, coming near to disintegrating.
Oh, no. Trying to shore up Butterfield's faltering attack, Porter ordered Lieutenant Colonel Robert C. Buchanan's brigade of regulars into action. Said, regulars. But Longstreet's attack on the Union left interrupted him. The withdrawal was also a costly operation. Some of the jubilant Confederates in Stark's brigade attempted a pursuit, but were beaten back by the Union reserves posted along the Groveton-Sudley Road. Overall, Jackson's command was too depleted to counterattack, allowing Porter to stabilize the situation north of the Turnpike. Concerned about Porter's situation, however, Irvin McDowell ordered Reynolds' division to leave Chin Ridge and come to Porter's support. This may have been the worst tactical decision of the day.
Oh, no.
Because it left only 2,200 Union troops south of the Turnpike, where they would soon face 10 times the number of Confederates.
Oh, shit.
Jeez.
Wow. Well, Lee and Longstreet agreed that the time was right.
Like,
a long-awaited
assault. Did you see that?
Yeah.
What they just did?
It's like moving out. And that the objective would be Henry House Hill, which had been the key terrain in the first battle of Bull Run.
Yep.
In which, if captured, would dominate the potential Union line of retreat. Damn right it would. We all know about House on Hill Street. Longstreet's command of 25,000 men in 5 divisions stretched nearly a mile long.
Mile and a half.
Right, nearly 2 miles long.
Holy shit.
From the Browner Farm into the north to the Manassas Gap Railroad into the south. To reach the hill, they would have to traverse 1.5 to 2 miles of
Jeez.
ground containing ridges, streams, and some heavily wooded areas. Longstreet knew that he would not be able to project a well-coordinated battle line across this terrain, so he had to rely on the drive and initiative of his division commanders. Right?
Yeah.
He's like, we got to get there, bud. Fucking get there.
Well, the lead division on the left closest to the turnpike was John Bell Hood's Texans, supported by Brigadier General Nathan G. Shanks Evans' South Carolinians. On Hood's right were Kemper's and Jones divisions. Anderson's division was
Man,
held
where
in
Kemper been
reserve.
this whole time.
Right there. Just before Longstreet just got here.
Right.
Just before the attack, Lee signaled to Jackson. He said, General Longstreet is advancing. Look out for and protect his left flank. Realizing what was happening down on the left, Porter told Buchanan to instead move in that direction to stem the Confederate onslaught, then also sent a messenger to find other regular brigade commanded by Colonel Charles W. Roberts and get it into action. He says, let's go. Union defenders south of the turnpike consisted of only 2 brigades commanded by Nathaniel C. McLean and Governor
Jeez,
K. Warren.
These guys are about to get rowdied.
Yes.
I can see it already. McLean held Chin Ridge. Warren was near Groveton, about 800 yards further west. Hood's men began the assault at 4 p.m., immediately overwhelming Warren's 2 regiments,
Of course.
the 5th New York and the 10th New York. Within the first 10 minutes of contact, the 500 men of the 5th New York had suffered almost 300 casualties, 120 of them mortally wounded. This was the largest loss of life of any infantry regiment in a single battle during the entire war.
Holy shit. The entire war.
Wow. The 5th and 10th in New York had been wearing bright red and blue uniforms. And what?
Why?
Why red? British lovers, the British sympathizers. And one of Hood's officers wrote that the bodies lying on the hill reminded him of the Texas countryside when the wildflowers were in bloom.
Jeez. Wow, dude, that is crazy. While all this was going on, Pope was at his headquarters behind Dogan Ridge, of course, oblivious to the chaos unfurling to the south. What an idiot. Instead, he was focused on a message he had just received from Henry Halleck announcing that the 2nd and 6th Corps, plus Brigadier General Darius Couch's division of the 4th Corps, were on the way. And McClellan had been ordered to stay behind in Washington, D.C., so Pope's like even more happier now.
Nice.
This would give Pope 41 brigades, all of them completely under his command with no interference from McClellan whatsoever.
You know he's loving this
Right.
shit.
Only after Warren had collapsed and McLean was being driven from the field did Pope finally realize what was happening.
Oh, what a piece of shit. He's sitting there gloating. We got it. I'm the man.
Oh, it's not going to matter because those these reinforcements aren't going to arrive in time for you anyways there, Popey.
McDowell ordered Ricketts' division to disengage from its attack on the Confederate left, which had also failed to achieve any breakthrough, and reinforce the Union left. Like, you got to come back over here, but McDowell rode out with Reynolds to supervise the construction of the new line of defense on Chin Ridge, just as Porter's shattered troops came running out of the woods to the west. Reynolds protested the order to move to Chin Ridge, arguing that his division was needed to prevent a Confederate attack from the woods. McDowell, however, told Reynolds that the Confederate attack was not coming from that direction, you dumb son of a bitch, but they're coming from the south. So move your division there immediately. I bet you Reynolds didn't like that.
Sucks to be him.
All right. Even before this happened, one of Reynolds' brigade commanders, Colonel Martin Hardin, commanding Brigadier General Conrad F. Jackson's brigade after Jackson had called in sick.
What?
He's like, I can't believe it. Can you believe Brigadier General already uses 5 sick dates? And we still got 5 years left to war.
Right. Oh, geez. He had his wife calling for him. Conrad's a little under the weather today. He can't come in.
Are you sure we kind of need him out here?
I didn't know you can call in sick in the Army. What the hell? Wow.
No shit. Anyway, Colonel Martin Hardin took this initiative by himself and marched down to the stem of the Confederate onslaught. He's like, fuck it, let's kill ourselves.
Right. Well, taking with him Battery G of the 1st Pennsylvania Artillery, Hardin's brigade unleashed a volley of musket fire that stunned the 1st and 4th Texas regiments, but the 5th Texas to the right kept coming on and quickly shot down most of the gunners of Battery G.
All right.
Nathan Evans' South Carolina brigade now arrived to reinforce the Texans, got in the rear of Hardin's brigade. Oh, Hardin fell wounded, and command of the brigade devolved on Colonel James Kirk of the 10th Pennsylvania Reserves. Kirk was shot down within minutes, and a lieutenant colonel took over.
Oh, shit.
The crumbling remains of the brigade fell back. Some soldiers paused to take shots at the oncoming Confederates.
Nah, fuck that. Run.
Nathaniel McLean's brigade of Ohioans arrived on the scene. Who gives a fuck? Fuck you, Ohio. Arrived on the scene, but was assailed by 3 sides of the brigades by Law, Wilcox, and Evans, and soon joined the survivors of Hardin's brigade in a disorganized mob on Henry House Hill.
Damn, they had a law firm there.
And they destroyed it. this time.
A Law Wilcox and Evans law firm.
Henry House Hill survived the first war, but not this one.
Not looking like it. First two Union brigades to arrive were from Ricketts Division, commanded by Brigadier General Jealous B. Tower and Colonel Fletcher Webster, temporarily commanding Colonel John Stiles' brigade. James Ricketts had been at the same battlefield a year earlier at First Battle Run, where he had commanded a regular gun battery and had been captured at the fight for Henry Hill. Oh, no, he was captured.
Oh, he's getting put to death if they capture his ass again.
Towers' brigade slammed Wilcox's Alabamians in the flank and sent them reeling, but was then immediately confronted with the fresh Confederate division of David R. Jones's.
Oh, no. David R. Jones's locker.
Webster lined up his 4 regiments to face Confederate attackers, but was struck by an artillery shell and collapsed dead on the field.
Oh, jeez.
Disheartened by Webster's death, his men began to fall back. Meanwhile, Tower was shot from his horse and carried off the field unconscious.
Oh, no.
And this is the 2 Union brigades fucked up.
Well, Robert Schenck then ordered Colonel John Coates' brigade, which had been held in reserve during Sigel's attack on the Confederate left the previous day and was fresh into action, along with Waldemir Krzyzewski's brigade, which had been heavily engaged and was tired. Yeah, I remember that name. Coates, however, was quickly struck by an artillery shell and killed. Overall command devolved onto Colonel Richard Kelter of the 11th Pennsylvania, which was the highest ranking officer remaining on the field.
Oh, shit.
And a Mexican War veteran.
Oh, nice.
Although Coates and Krzyzewski's 6 regiments held their ground for a little while, they were quickly overwhelmed by yet more fresh Confederates in the brigades of Armistead, Corse, and Hunton, and started to fall back in disorder.
Okay.
Disorder!
Yeah, look at that again. R.H. Anderson failed to avail himself of the most significant advantage 3 hours of fighting on Chin Ridge and Henry Hill had forged. Because he did not, the Confederates' last opportunity to destroy Pope's army dwindled with the day's lights.
Ooh.
That was John J. Hennessy, returned to Bull Run.
Good for him.
During the first 2 hours of Confederate assault, McDowell had constructed a new line of defense consisting of Reynolds and Sykes' divisions. Longstreet's last fresh troops, Richard Anderson's division, now took the offensive. The regulars of George Sykes' division, along with Meade and Seymour brigades, plus Piatt's brigade, formed a line on Henry House Hill that held off this final Confederate attack long enough to give the rest of the army time to withdraw across Bull Run Creek to Centreville. So they're going to give up the house, huh?
They should call the Union armies the federal withdrawers.
Right.
That's all they fucking do. Well, Stonewall Jackson, under relatively ambiguous orders from Lee to support Longstreet, launched an attack north of the Turnpike at 6 p.m., probably as soon as his exhausted forces could be mustered. He's like, all right, boys, come on.
Yep.
Historian John J. Hennessy called Jackson's delays one of the battle's great puzzles and one of the most significant Confederate failures of the
I
battle,
don't think it was a failure.
greatly reducing the value of his advance. Look at Jackson messing up again, huh?
Right.
The attack coincided with Pope's ordered withdrawal of units north of the Turnpike to assist in the Henry House Hill defense, and the Confederates were able to overrun a number of artillery and infantry units in their fierce assault. By 7 p.m., however, Pope had established a strong defensive line that aligned with the units on Henry House Hill. 8 p.m., he ordered a general withdrawal on the Turnpike to Centerville. Unlike the retreat at the first Battle of Bull Run, the Union movement was quiet and orderly. The Confederates, weary from battle and low on ammunition, did not pursue in the darkness.
Why would you?
This battle is over, my boys.
Although Lee had won a great victory, he had not achieved his objective of destroying Pope's army.
It sounds like a similar thing that happens, huh?
The final significant action of battle occurred around 7 p.m. as Lee directed Jeb Stewart's cavalry to go around the Union flank and cut off their retreat. Brigadier General Beverly Robertson's cavalry brigade, accompanied by Colonel Thomas Roser's 5th Virginia Cavalry, headed for Lewis Ford, a crossing in Bull Run Creek that would enable them to get into the rear of the Union Army. However, Robertson and Roser found the crossing blocked by John Buford's cavalry, and after a short but fierce engagement, Buford's superior numbers won out, and the Confederate horsemen pulled back.
All right, we tried.
Cavalry clash lasted only about 10 minutes, but resulted in Colonel Thomas Mumford of the 2nd Virginia Cavalry being wounded. Colonel Thornton Broadhead of the 1st Michigan Cavalry was shot dead, and John Buford was also wounded. The Union's army's retreat, however, had been safeguarded.
All right.
Look, you can give credit to Buford's cavalry.
Yep.
Saved you mofos.
Second Battle of Manassas, like the first, was a significant tactical victory for the Confederates and was another blow to Union morale. Union casualties were about 14,000 killed and wounded out of 62,000 engaged, 22.5%.
That's a lot.
Confederates lost about 1,000 killed and 7,000 wounded out of 50,000, which was about 16%.
Still a lot.
As the Union Army concentrated on Centerville, Lee planned his next move. He sent I'd go attack him at Centerville.
Right.
Shit.
Move it.
He sent Jackson on another flanking march in an attempt to interpose his army between Pope and Washington. Pope countered the move, and two forces clashed a final time at the Battle of Chantilly Lace. Got a lovely face. September 1st, coming up right to next battle. Lee immediately began his next campaign on September 3rd when the vanguard of the Army of Northern Virginia crossed the Potomac River, marching toward a fateful encounter with the Army of the Potomac in the Maryland campaign and the Battle of Antietam. Yeah, that's going to be a good one, too. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
See, now we got Confederates marching towards Washington now. Before, the whole war was the Unions trying to march toward Virginia, and now the Confederates are like, wait a minute.
Right.
We're going to start pressuring your capital. How do you like that?
Right. Look at that. Well, Brigadier General Alpheus S. Williams, 2nd Corps Division Commander, has this to say. A splendid army, almost demoralized. Millions of public property given up or destroyed.
Millions?
Thousands of lives of our best men sacrificed for no purpose. I dare not trust myself to speak of this, Commander Pope, as I feel and believe. Suffice to say that more insolence, superciliousness, ignorance, and pretentiousness were never combined in one man.
All right. Those words were never combined in one sentence before either, there, Williams.
It can in truth be said of him that he had not a friend in his command, from the smallest drummer boy to the biggest general officer. Wow.
So tell us how you really feel, Elvis.
Damn. Pope was relieved of command on September 12th, 1862.
That was a short little run for him, huh?
His army was merged into the Army of Potomac as it marched into Maryland under McClellan.
He got his wish.
He spent the remainder of the war in the Department of Northwest in Minnesota. Dang, they put him as far back as there's no battles.
I don't know. I'd rather go in the Civil War dealing with the war he's in.
Yeah, the Dakota War. Oh. So he had to go and fight in the Dakota War of 1862.
Dude, this is crazy. We got a whole separate army fighting the Dakota War, and then we got the Civil War going on. I mean, it's fucking stupid.
Jeez. Pope sought scapegoats to spread the blame for his defeat. 25th of November, 1862, Fitz John Porter was arrested in court-martial for his actions on the 29th of August.
What if they're always trying to do something like that? Look at Pope. Porter was found guilty on January 10th of 1863 of disobedience and misconduct, because he did, and he was dismissed from the army on January 21st.
What?
Wow. Spent most of the remainder of his life fighting against the verdict. 1878, a special commission under General John M. Schofield exonerated Porter by finding that his reluctance to attack Longstreet probably saved Pope's Army of Virginia from an even greater defeat.
Yeah, but you know how they like to follow orders.
Right, well, it doesn't matter now. Everything's been done.
Right.
8 years later, President Chester A. Arthur reversed Porter's sentence.
Who?
Chester Arthur, man.
I know. Who?
Hey, if you're not remembered as a president, that means you
did something.
Well, I don't know. You didn't do anything good or bad, so hey, good for you, I guess.
Right. You get 4 years just to be president.
I'm pretty sure he was 8 years.
Oh, look at that. James Longstreet was criticized for his performance during the battle, and the postbellum advocates of the lost cause claimed that his slowness, reluctance to attack, disobedience to General Lee on August 29th were a harbinger of his controversial performance to come on July 2nd, 1863.
Ooh, I can't wait
Battle
to get that.
of Gettysburg. Yeah. Longstreet in Gettysburg. We'll see.
Okay.
He messed up in Gettysburg big time.
Well,
Lee's biographer, Douglas Southall Freeman, wrote, "The seeds of much of the disaster at Gettysburg were sown in that instant when Lee yielded to Longstreet, and Longstreet discovered that he would."
Wow. So he's saying Lee bowed down to Longstreet pretty much, and Longstreet's like, "Oh, you will? All right. Take advantage of that, huh?"
And he did.
Part of the site of the battle is now Manassas National Battlefield Park, located north of Manassas in Prince William County, Virginia. Preserves the sites of the two major battles, obviously first and second.
Right.
The peaceful Virginia countryside bore witness to clashes between the armies of the North and the South, and it was there that Confederate General Thomas J. Jackson acquired his nickname Stonewall
Jackson
in the first one. American Battlefield Trust and his partners have acquired and preserved 373 acres of the Second Battle of Bull Run and more than 10 transactions since 2000.
Fantastic.
Good for them.
Fantastic.
And that, my folks, is how we end this one. And
this was a fuck nut of a battle too. I mean, none of these.
It's more of the same with the Union. I don't understand.
Right.
What?
Right.
I don't understand why Pope and McClellan were both every time they got told information. No, I don't believe it.
No,
I don't believe it. Nah, you guys are idiots, man.
Meade should be taking over pretty soon, and he wasn't too bad.
I don't think Meade ever takes over.
Mm-hmm.
Halleck does until Grant.
Halleck, yeah.
Halleck's already in charge. Wow. Second battle of the Bull Run. Could have had him.
Well, the Confederates could have done more damage than what was done. The North probably could have, with the reinforcements of the 25,000 that wasn't there yet.
What? I don't understand why nobody.
And they had the artillery that was blocking every Confederate advance that was just shelling them.
I don't know why nobody talks shit about Jackson when clearly he failed to attack when he should have.
Right.
Way late.
Right.
Again. This dude has done fucked up so many times since coming out of the Shenandoah Valley in front of Lee. And Lee's just like, I would have liked you earlier.
Right.
All nice to him. It's crazy.
Right.
It's only fitting that he gets blasted in the face by one of his own guys. You moron.
I mean, what are you gonna do? Your luck runs out sometime. Very disappointing second battle of Bull Run.
Yeah.
Some action, but a lot of stupidity. I still can't understand the stupidity. How do we beat the British? Is the British even that stupid?
Apparently.
Holy shit.
Well, a big part of the Revolutionary War is the British didn't know the terrain like the Americans did.
True.
That's why it fucked us in Vietnam.
Very true.
All right, coming up next, we'll have probably more than likely at least 3 battles, one of which Battle of Brighton's Lane and the Battle of Chantilly, which we discussed last time. And then maybe even the Battle of Harper's Ferry. That's a 4-day battle. So all in West Virginia. Stonewall captures Union garrison under Dixon XS Miles.
All B battles too. Look at that. A lot of B's and A.
Yeah, then we got a Battle of Munford. Then we got a Battle of South Mountain. And then we got the Battle of Antietam coming September 17th. So 2 more episodes probably before then, maybe even 1.
Oh, shit. Antietam is the bloodiest single day of the war so far.
And Lee's first invasion of the North. He's coming. I told you. Got lots of stuff coming up. Good for us. Fort Sumter has another battle, huh? With that being said, if you guys want to hear this without ads, no ads whatsoever, and all through the night, got a creature stern. If you guys want to hear this ad free, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/bang dang, and you'll get all of these as well as Outlaws and Gunslingers and This Week in Sports History, no ads, and just video. Audio version right now, but you can get your RSS feed, link it into your favorite podcast app, and take it from there. Working on getting some decent video.
There's a battle in Idaho in 1863. Holy shit, that's far. Why would it just be isolated to Idaho? That's crazy. Sorry, I'm looking at the map, bud. Look at up in North Dakota. Oh, that's probably an Indian battle in Idaho too, right?
Yeah, you get all those shows ad free, and we're working on getting some good video going for you guys. Maybe down here in the future, $2 a month. That's all it's going to cost you for all 3 of those shows, no ad, and I really can't beat that price. So if you guys are sick of the ads and you hear them, because there's a lot more than there usually are, to make it worth our time of doing the show. To be honest with you guys, I'm not going to lie to you there, but if you want it all, you can get it for $2 a month without no ads. So patreon.com/bang dang. We'll be back next week for at least 3 other battles. Again, you know how we do it with Month Michiganders with Bang Dang.